Yeah. JRB Podcast episode 37 with myself, Ryan Levine. Joined here by Jeff Jones and Bohdan.
Hello.
We just discovered the soundboard, and by that I mean Jeff did,
Yeah.
and he ruined it for everyone.
Okay, so it has been a while. We've had wildly conflicting schedules between traveling to all these events, and like Jeff and I were, well, I was stuck in Texas for like an extra 2 days trying to get back for the WCQ, and then
we
went to
came
Gen
back
Con, and
went to Gen Con
for
thing. 4 or 5 days, and now we're back.
I have no excuses, so yeah, that's my bad.
Yeah, so
Bohdan's excuse is he lives across the ocean from us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what are we talking about? We're going to talk about maybe.
Well, what are the hot topics in like current Yu-Gi-Oh? Because I think a lot of it is just like, where's the ban list, which you got insight of like when it is coming. They gave us the Vegas idea of August. Cool. I guess the other one is like the Yu-Gi-Oh World Championship is coming up. Like we're post WCQ, we didn't really talk about that. Anyone have any experiences at their WCQ that they want to talk about? Like Ryan worked, Jeff played.
Yeah, so
I played barely. I don't know. Like anything stand out?
I would love to not talk about current Yu-Gi-Oh, and I feel like
I know, but like just the event itself, right? Is there anything that stood out to you or no?
Nope, I saw no one. I literally, I saw Ryan 0 times the entire event. Did not see him until a week later at Gen Con, and we were right next to each other. However, right next to each other actually meant half a mile away. If you were there, you know what I mean.
Let me casually yell real quick about a thing that I'm sure maybe 1/10 of the viewers will actually care about, but just a quick one. And this is by no fault of like either party specifically, but it's just like this whole whirlwind of things that did have to go wrong that I'm sure some people will appreciate it being talked about. So like we get to Oceanics, and just to put it in perspective, there are no sleeves, right? So I'm talking to the tier because I'm friends with the tier. I'm like, oh, it says no sleeves. It's like, yeah, like Europe just didn't send them with everything that we had needed to be sent. And then there was communication with Europe, and apparently they didn't know that the sleeves weren't sent. So it's a 200-person event. No one knows what the sleeves are. The giant cards had to be shipped out. All this other stuff. And the event was a cut to top 64. With 9 rounds of Swiss and like 100 and something people. I didn't top. I don't know how that happened. But yeah, so that was something. A lot of inconsistencies. So that was like, it wasn't. I don't want to say unpleasant, but boy, that was something. It was definitely something. So that was my WCQ experience. Back to One Piece, etc. But yeah, let's talk about the ban list. Yeah, cool. What are we thinking?
And we talk about the ban list.
It's gonna be out this month, right? Like that's what they said at least.
Yeah,
it's for sure this month coming out.
They said the end of August, which would mean, I'm guessing would mean, I'm gonna guess it's going to be the week after Sacramento.
Did they say end of August or did they say late August?
They said late August, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, well, you know what late August could be? Could also be December 31st. I don't know what to tell you. Like, we can only hope that they stick to their promises, and it is sooner rather than later, because I'm sure everyone would welcome some change, especially considering it has been changed, but not changed for the better. Snake Eyes still exists. Fiendsmith. So on. Been kind of rough. How do we fix this, Jeff? You're the ideas man.
I am the ideas man.
Yeah.
So outside of what I think should happen, I think what's going to happen is originally I thought, well, maybe you just ban original simple spoils, and a lot of stuff happens where like Diabellstar is not as powerful anymore. Like, I don't even know if you can play Diabellstar. You don't even play Diabellstar anymore. It takes like 6 cards out of your deck. And then a lot of things, I think, get solved. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think they want Diabellstar to be a playable card. And instead, I think that Flamberge is going to get hit 100%. I think it kind of lines up with similar hits in the past now for TCG. And then you kind of just have if they just ban Flamberge, I think it's actually just fine. You don't really have to do anything else, honestly.
Mm.
I think the only thing that might just happen is like Wanted goes to 1, and like no Snake Eye Ash hit, no Bonfire hit, anything like that. I don't think the other cards are as crazy. I started like playing around with like a deck that had no Flamberge, and that was it. And it just feels infinitely worse than something like Ubel, which now that's something that I would like to get into at some point. But
Do you want to like look at it like more like OCG hits, right? Like you want more consistency hits and think that the product release schedule probably doesn't like.
no, those GG hits are ass. They literally just hit the
No,
deck
no. I
incrementally.
agree, but like if you think they're not gonna do any, like they're not gonna ban original because like there's obviously new support that synergizes well with like the Sinful Spoils cards, less of the Snake Eye cards themselves. Like,
I think more so that original could get banned because there is new support around Diabellstar that. So right now, like the only use for Diabellstar is original. If you get rid of original, it has no reason to even be played. And then
Currently,
with the
not with the new
right,
products.
Yeah.
right, and then when the new cards come out, then there is a reason to play it. So that was my theory. Is like, oh, you just hit original and then it's fine. Like, but
I also feel like when you look at the release schedule, right? We've got the tins, and then we've got what's it called? We've got the tins, and then we've also got
the Chronicle, right?
Bonanza
The
coming out,
right?
right?
Yes, that's the one.
And
They gave it the cool name.
Diabellstar is in both of them, and I think
The quarter century Bazinga.
Wanted might be in. I don't know if they said Wanted is in Bonanza, but Diabellstar is definitely in both, and Wanted is in the tins, and
Well,
maybe in Bonanza.
Rollback today. So do we assume that Bonfire is also in the tins? Like,
no. I think Bonfire's in Bonanza, so they can put it as a QCR.
Yeah, they very easily could.
Sure.
But yeah, I guess what I mean is like if we're seeing Diabellstar getting reprinted twice in the next 4 months, I would be shocked if that gets hit. Same with Wanted. Like I could definitely see Flameburge original, like both or one, probably both more likely, but I do not think we're gonna see Diabellstar or Wanted get hit because I think Jeff's right. I think it's probably better for them to like let that card be playable with the new stuff, right?
So I think that if you just hit Flamberge and then you can also hit Wanted to 1, I don't think that influences your sales of these sets at all. That's just a single card, and that card is already how much is Wanted right now? I think it's like $20.
$12. No,
$12.
It's like $12. Yes.
Let's
talk about that for a second, actually. If you know, if we can
yes, we can divot in 1 second, but is it consequential if Wanted goes to 1 and becomes a $2 card instead of a $12 card? I think they could very easily just hit Wanted and Flamberge and leave all the other cards in the Snake Eye deck alone. Proceed with your side of.
I think it is crazy. I think it is baffling how quickly we've had this insane paradigm shift. As far as like card values. I feel
like post Nats you see this trend quite often though.
Well, this is not a post Nats trend. At Nationals, these cards.
No, of course, there was like a slow
Wanted was $16 at Nats. What I mean is like we more than most people have been talking about this for a while about the values of cards and something cards should have value or maybe they shouldn't, whatever. And if we look at the like price trend for, I guess we could pick basically any of these Snake Eyes cards, and we've talked about them. We've talked about this in the past where the cards have gone down in price. Sorry, my cat is jumping on me. Where they've gone down in price, but this is like, other than a card getting banned, I do not recall a card losing this much value this quickly from such I guess I'll say like an overinflated number. Like even in other formats where we had multiple secret rares in like a tier 1, tier 0-ish format, like how much were the Zodiac Xyz monsters? Like you needed 2 to 3 of each of them and they were like $25-$30 maybe.
They scale down quite low towards.
I mean, like right when they came out at their peak,
Right,
they were like $30.
Right when they came out, I release prices. I think because our dollar was almost at parity, like Yu-Gi-Oh singles price, and they were high. Like week one was definitely high, and then I think they thinned out after supply had reached everyone, and people were like, okay. I
Barrage
would
was
say
expensive,
30.
but the Exceeds were just
Yeah.
not. And
Well,
then
that trend also continued until like Barrage went to
yeah,
one.
then they got
That
reprinted,
was the
and
whole
then
thing,
they
right?
were a
Yeah.
dollar. What I mean is like
Yeah.
this card has not been reprinted, and we've talked about multiple times like the really odd perfect storm of Age of Overlord being an expensive set. Age of Overlord is still $150 a box online.
Mm-hmm.
Like it because as we it
It just
came
has
out the
everything
same
in it. You
time
have
as
the
Rarity
Horus cards, you
Collection.
have everything,
Yes,
right?
it came
Just
out
like
the same time as Rarity
all the
Collection, so
benefits.
stores ordered less of it. And then yes, it has the Horus cards, it has it has the first wave of the Snake Eyes, it had SP Little Knight, it had Diabellstar, it had Wanted. It's like this set had everything. Now, I understand that because the reprints of these cards have been announced, it has already kind of done a little bit to the value of this card, but Wanted was less than $20 a month ago.
Mhm.
Like before Nationals, almost like
So
at the YCS Indy, this card was $20, and it was $130 at its peak. And people and this is not one of those like revisionist history. Like people will be like, no, it wasn't,
it
or
was
it was
130, yes.
$200. It's like we can literally look. There are 7 billion Twitter posts about this card being infinite, and now it is just like nothing, like comparatively, and it's like I think very 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 soon, to the point that I'm kind of shocked we haven't already seen it, is I feel like we're now going to get the opposite position that we had previously, where everybody was complaining that all these cards were so expensive. Now anyone that bought these cards feels awful because they are worth nothing. And if you bought this deck, let's be a little let's assume somebody who bought this deck would not be unlucky enough to buy every single copy of every single card of this deck at the absolute peak. Like, let's not say somebody, there were completed listings of Wanted in late December as high as $140. Like, there were sales on TCG Player of over $104 a copy. Let's not assume every single person bought them at this peak, because obviously that's not true. I'd say most people, according to the sales trends,
I'm
most
going to
people
assume
bought
that if
them.
anyone who could afford to do that does not have any issues
Yeah, that's
with
true.
Yu-Gi-Oh
That's
and
true.
money.
They don't care, I guess. Yes, anybody who
Yes.
could have afforded to spend $600, $500 on a playset of Wanted probably has so much money they don't care how much it's worth anymore. But let's say most people spent. I think at its most popular, it was at release weekend actually. This is a cool new feature TCG Player has actually that shows you how many copies of a card got sold at a certain price, and that's super cool. So almost 1,200 copies of Wanted were sold on like release weekend, and then it kind of thinned out from there, and then we had another big spike right after the ban list in April, right? So release weekend they were like $60. I'd say that's like probably around where they were, and that's $180 a playset. That's not nothing. I think Bellstar was way cheaper, and that is kind of one that is honestly not really gotten below its original. Like, I think it was very cheap when it first came out. Now
it's
kind of
maintained for sure. I
yeah,
don't think it's gone
that one
particularly
went up a
crazy.
lot, and then now it's just kind of back to what it was, which is
There was like a very
feels
fake
better.
week of like $50 Diabell stars, but I think
Yeah.
Gamer's Choice might have thinned that out on TCG, and everyone raced to the bottom.
Yeah.
So,
But now I just think like we're seeing. I guess what I'm saying is, if somebody bought a Snake Eyes deck, not even at like absolute peak price right before YCS Vegas, right before Phantom Nightmare, if somebody bought a Snake Eyes deck, or let's say they wanted to play Rescue Ace before that, so they bought all the Snake Eyes cards at like like just like the regular prices, like they paid $60 or $70 for Wanted, and then they paid $20 each for Bellstar or whatever, and they got everything else. Then when Phantom Nightmare came out, I think a lot of people probably got at the release of Phantom Nightmare where they probably overpaid for Poplar, because Poplar
Everyone
was a
did.
yeah,
They overpaid for
everyone,
Poplar
yeah.
and
I
Princess for sure.
100% overpaid for Poplar.
Yeah. I mean, Poplar was a
No,
card that
no
like
question.
this
No
this one is
question.
this one is gross. When you look at them selling for $60 the weekend of release, and then and then it was still $30 a month later, and then obviously now it's a $3 card because ultra rares
Yeah.
are so easy to
Princess
get. And
weirdly has not gone
yes,
too much. Like it went down and now it's sort of thinned itself like to a point where I think it's still a card that will sell consistently at like what 20 or 30. How much is it now? It's like 23, 25,
no,
maybe less.
US
I
like
think
for $15. Yeah,
Sure, okay. I guess it's just an Australian thing
yeah.
in my head,
But yeah, no,
but
it's
like
obviously that's
that's
15's better
reasonable,
than
right?
3. Yeah, like this
Yeah.
is a card that
But
is
we also
oddly
went from a
retained
point
value.
where it's like people didn't know if you needed 2 copies of this card. Like you had the Fire King decks playing 2 copies. So like there's a world where like at that on release maybe was a little bit more expensive just because of the unknown. But yeah, like 15 is fine for a meta relevant extra deck staple, right?
Oh yeah. I also feel like people just generally tend to spend more on extra cards anyway, which is kind of weird to me because usually the extra cards you only need 1 copy of, and then somehow they're end up being more. But I digress. I think it is possible we're going to see like sort of a reverse reaction that we saw when these came out to, again, not someone paying, $3,000 for their Snake Eye deck and it's now worth $100, but somebody who paid $600 for their Snake Eye deck and now, and now only a couple months later, because it is not worse than it was. It is the same viability in the metagame. It is still the best deck. And it's just lost 80% of its value or more. And I just don't know. This isn't sustainable. Like this can't happen every year. If this happens every year, why would anybody buy cards? If these cards become worthless by the end of the season every single year,
that's not dictated by like Konami or anything else.
I understand
like,
that. Well,
secondary market thinning out, right?
I was gonna say that we all know that this is going to happen. People who buy cards and play Yu-Gi-Oh know that these cards get reprinted at the end of the summer, at the end of the year.
It's less the reprint though. I think there's a lot of other factors at play. Because the power level of these cards was so high, people anticipated that they would get hit at any given moment, right? And that didn't happen. People also saw the value in Agov and continued to crack it. But then I also do think there is a world that you see a lot of cards bottom out in a certain pocket of the year when the product schedule for the next quarter tends to be quite big, right? So you have the tins into the bonanza into 2 more core sets, 1 more core set, plus whatever side sets come out. And I think the tins plus the other ones will definitely take up a good chunk. So a lot of the people on sites like TCG Player are definitely going to end up bottoming out to try and maximize as much value as they can leading up to these releases, which is something we've seen traditionally. So a card like Wanted, which has 1, a potential hit on it from a ban list, 2, I would like to think like a trend would down from people just not having too much fun playing modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And then 3 is obviously just like the monetary factor. Like if a card is 130, you list it for 130, it doesn't sell at 130, it trends down. It just will always trend down. And then when a store has 30 copies and lists them at like 50, we're going to see it continue and it's just going to keep compounding, right? So like the feature that would be the one thing that's interesting about that feature. I would like to see like how many were on release and then seeing if there's any incremental spikes of people just opening a lot of Agov when there was a lot of value in it, right? And seeing if there was a pocket when it was at like 60, but like there were a lot sold after the fact compared to like pre-release pricing. So
yeah,
maybe you could look that up and then that would indicate
there is like the numbers of boxes sold on TCG Player is way, way lower than like, the numbers of
I think people were cracking the set, to be honest. Like it doesn't surprise me if like there's a flood in the market.
Not when it was like you can kind of see the trend like on the release week. It like the month of release there were like 1,500 or like 2,000 boxes sold, and then it quickly levels out to like
less the boxes itself, right? Like I am assuming that like these stores will just be cracking. Like the big stores will be cracking when a set is hitting a certain amount. Like you guys know, I know like
when you're selling the sealed for $140 a box, I feel like there's no way you're cracking it. But I don't.
So for that specifically, I think what Konami said in their Bonanza thing about if a card got a QCR, we will not reprint it again as a QCR, meaning that these best cards in like AGOV that only come as QCR, you're only going to get them out of the AGOV box and no other way. So that's why I think those boxes might retain value for a long run, because those are the only places you're going to be able to get those cards years from now if they're good, or even for collectors.
Until they put them in, like ultimate rare or like the next funny rarity.
Yeah,
that is,
it will be
the
the
big
next
one.
funny
Yeah,
rarity, which we only have
yeah,
a
yeah.
year left
Yes,
of the.
we are not reprinting Starlight rares. Makes them quarter century rares. It's
Yeah.
just the same thing with the stamp. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I get you.
But
Really
to
makes
go
you
back
think.
to your point about the product schedule, there is another core set. There's Rage of the Abyss in October, then Bonanza in November. I thought that was December, but it's in November actually.
Actually, I thought it was earlier, to be honest,
And
but I guess
then-
I thought it was earlier
the
too.
Mama,
Crossover
the Mama
Breakers.
slot, I guess. Yeah.
Crossover Breakers is the set I'm most excited for.
And that comes out
right
in
now.
December, and then also the tins, as we mentioned, come out in September.
And then who's to say they won't throw us another Rarity Collection 3 at some point? Because Rarity Collection 2
Easily
did come
could
out of
happen.
nowhere.
Easily could
It
happen.
really
Another
could.
Rarity Collection next year.
And I
Easily
fucking hope
could.
they don't. And I will stand by that. And I said that would be the most controversial take I could have.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Stop
Didn't
reprinting
Bonanza
cards.
isn't Bonanza the last one? Didn't they say this?
No, it's not. No, because the quarter century. Okay, I know why you would think that. The way it is worded, I can see why you would think that, but nothing definitively says that this is the last thing. Let me find the exact one, because one of them says, okay, the last call for quarter century secret rares is coming. So let's kick everything into overdrive starting right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think this actually implies this is not the last reprint set. This is just this is the beginning of they are going to fire all cannons the whole year.
And then there's going to be quarter century but Bonanza 2 Electric
Bonanza
Boogaloo.
2 Electric Boogaloo. Yes, it would not shock me at all if next June we just get another Rarity Collection. But
sure.
Okay. Well, I mean, isn't Rarity Collection not exclusive to the 25th anniversary thing? Didn't OCG just have it?
Yeah, they did. But I mean, these are the 25th anniversary Rarity Collections. I think we could very easily get 25th anniversary Rarity Collection 3, very easily.
I get it. But my argument is still always just going to be this is probably just drifting from what we were even talking about, but holy shit, just please stop reprinting everything in
the cards
everything.
are already worth nothing, as we've seen. The cards will naturally become worth nothing without them doing anything, as we've seen. Yes.
No point.
Side note, when I was looking at the product schedule, we even had a structure deck in 9 months, and there is not one.
We didn't get one the entire year.
Schedule. Yeah, we didn't. We got the Fire King structure deck in December of last year, and there is not another structure deck scheduled for release in the TCG this year. The Blue Eyes one is announced in Japan, but we have not received any official confirmation that we will be getting that deck. And as we know, very frequently, they like to not give us structure decks, and they like to piece out the new cards into other sets. So
usually they only do that when the structure deck's really bad and they don't think it'll sell, which I don't think is a problem with the Blue Eyes one.
Yeah, the Blue Eyes one, it would shock me. I mean, they could
not only is it very good.
If you're talking about things that won't sell, they reprinted the Light Swan structure deck from 10 years ago in Light of Destruction. So maybe that's not their concern anymore. Who's to say?
Yeah, that is true.
But without product,
regardless, it's not on the product schedule. It hasn't been announced. So the fact that it hasn't been announced and distributors can't order it and whatever, or stores can't order it from distributors or whatever, I can't imagine that comes out this year. I think we might go through an entire year with no structure deck, which is crazy.
No, we 100% do. It would have been announced by now. Yes.
Yeah, that's insane to me. That's actually insane to me, especially because last year we had Crimson King come out the last week of September, and then we had Fire King structure deck come out the first week of December. That was a 2.5 month turnaround of structure decks. And now we even had one. I mean, they do this a lot. I don't know why, but there's always like, for whatever reason, there's always like 6 months in between a structure deck, and then 2 months the next one comes out, and then 6 months for the next one, and then 2 months. And I don't really understand why they're like, this is, I don't know. I'm looking at the structure decks now, and like, I didn't know that Albaz was over 2 years ago, and that was like 5 structure decks ago.
Yeah.
Like, these have been coming out really, really slowly, and I don't think I realized, like,
I think a lot of modern games come out with new starter decks, or like basically almost every set.
yeah.
Like they release it alongside it, like the
Uh-huh.
set.
Yeah, this is, I don't know. I just never really thought about it because, like, I guess, like, we have been playing for a long time, so we are no longer, like, hoping for structure decks to have reprints that we need for our deck. Like, we've just bought all these cards years ago. So I'm not really paying too much attention to when structure decks come out, I guess, and I didn't realize it's literally been, to the day, it has been 9 months since the Fire King structure deck came out, and that's just crazy to me that we haven't got another one. But I digress. Not that I would even know what they'd put in a structure deck at this point, because they have 30,000 reprint sets, and maybe that's why there hasn't been another structure deck. Because, like, what would you even reprint in this structure? I mean, I say that, but I guess
I
the
would
Fire King deck
I would be making structure
Imperm
decks to get
in
new
it.
players into the game, not to be
Yes.
reprinting cards.
Sure. I guess that is true. Which, and you can just put whatever you want. Like, the Fire King structure deck put in Imperm, even though it just got reprinted in the Rarity Collection when this came out, and then they also put in Droll, which was coming out in the next Rarity Collection. So,
Right.
literally, who knows? It can just be anything. But anyways, speaking of tins, I guess let's dive away from. I guess I don't think I really had, like, necessarily a point to those whole value of cards thing, other than, like, this can't be sustainable. Something has to change. I feel, which we've talked about, that, like, this has happened before. I just don't remember it happening to this degree. And I think it's just because, like, these cards, and it's like, these cards should not have gotten to the ridiculous prices they did. I think we can all agree now, in hindsight especially, it's very obvious that, like, ultra rare Bonfire being $120 when it came out was ridiculous. That made no sense. And I think now that we've seen how that played out, hopefully the next time a card like this comes out, it won't. Like, Bonfire is $25 right now.
Yeah.
That's crazy. This card was $110 when it was released, and, like, the week of Vegas, it was like $120. And it's just like, this is a card that if you wanted to play, you in air quotes had to buy at that price. Sort of disagree, but maybe
yeah, kind of.
And then now it's just lost 80% of its value. And is this going to be sustainable?
I think there is another trend with the Snake Eye deck specifically that I forgot in my last point. The downward trend, I think, could also be contributed to the Fiendsmith cards being higher rarity. So if you got in with the Snake Eye cards at the beginning, right? So, like, initial expenditure is still high. Like, let's assume you got there and you wanted to play, like, the 2 or 3 YCSs. And now you have to get the Fiendsmith cards, which is just more money you have to throw into it. And you need them to exist. You need these cards to play, right? Like, this is the issue that tends to happen when it's just, like, 17 waves of support. And I'd like to argue that the 17th wave is just not meant to be support for Snake Eye. It's just really, they're just really good cards. So I think that's another compounding factor that comes. It's not sustainable, but I think when you continue trends like that, where it's like, Fiendsmith, good generic card, throw it in, that's when it becomes an issue, right? That's when it all just, like, comes crumbling down. Because now we're just pricing people out at the beginning. There's people that were upset at the beginning about, like, Snake Eye being expensive, and then you have, like, the little curve going down, and you buy in at the dip, and then it's like, oh, well, now my deck is unplayable unless I have to get this new curve at the top, and you'll see the trend continue. Sorry, this it's way too, like, late/early.
Yeah.
So me coming in for no context is just something I would like to bring up. The Fiendsmith thing just clicked in my brain then.
Yeah.
But yes, Bonfire card something sustainable, probably not.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that also goes back to everybody complained about this when it happened, and then people bought them anyway. So
Oh no,
whatever.
that's all that happens.
You
But
know?
I also think modern Yu-Gi-Oh players just buy these decks for the sake of buying a deck, thinking, oh, this is going to be like. So it's not to say they're not the best decks of the format, right? However, modern Yu-Gi-Oh has these intricacies that I think. I'm trying to figure out a good way to compare it to like prior formats, right? Where it's like you have to play this deck. However, if these people are weak to middling players, they are not really transferring any skills, and they're just learning combos, and they're gonna have a bad tournament experience, and they're just gonna again buy the deck, sell it, onto the next one. Right? Like decks like Tempai are a godsend for these people. But like at the beginning when they're buying in and they're just taking all these cards and like you have your bonfires at 100, it's fear of missing out on another tier 0 deck. And we saw it with Terelement. I think like that, 2022 I think was probably a good enough like marker for that. Maybe a little less so because North America didn't have to play with Power of the Elements for their WCQ. So it was really just Europe and Oceania. And then I guess you had like the YCS Niagara, but you already saw the prices trend down at that point. I guess maybe you could look at the Ishizu cards, right? Like that's a funny one. Like they were ridiculous.
Ishizu cards were worthless, which is also crazy. Those cards were
Dude,
nothing.
No, Ryan, you have no idea how much they were at that YCS. At that Pasadena, it was insane. Because they were short, they were short printed in Europe, right? Like
I didn't know that. I did know that,
Yeah. So like in North America, they were like these really high random pre-sale prices. By the end of the weekend, they were probably around like maybe 8s, give or take. And then obviously as time went on, they hit like maybe 5s or something. But then when you go to Europe and there was the European YCS afterwards, it's like you have these €30 like millers, you have the shufflers are like 10s, and it's absolutely disgusting. Just the craziest thing I've seen possible.
That is pretty insane.
No.
And maybe
that's another problem that I'm sure we talked about, but
yeah.
Like the European print, like short print versus like EU, whatever. But
yeah, it is weird that the last time I remember that happening, it actually was in, I guess, Europe's favor. I'll say where like Magician Souls was like really shorted in North America, and it was not in Europe.
Yeah, it keeps food in that mouth, right? That's the whole vibe.
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing I'll talk about with the tins, to kind of pivot away from just like the old reprints, I want to talk about the new stuff. Well,
how did we go from the ban list to any of this, by the way? I feel like Ryan was talking about prices and then it was like from the ban list. I don't think we ever actually went deeper on the ban list. Huh?
Oh yeah, that is what happened. I was
Jeff.
20 minutes ago I said wanted is $14. Let's yell about it.
Jeff, you haven't posted, so normally you post like a ban list that you are predicting, right? Like this time you haven't actually posted anything. I feel like you've only really talked about like the little things. Are there any cards that you could see them hitting maybe to 1 that would be unexpected? Like anything that you think is like a big oversight? I'm sure like people are talking about like Apo. We talked about the original Simple Soils, like the Flamberge. Some people are talking about Oak. All of it, like the obvious stuff. Do you think there's something that they are just very much
talking about Oak? What?
Ryan, you have no idea. People have been talking about Oak. It's insane.
Really?
Anyway, yeah.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, bro, I don't know what to tell you. But Jeff, is there anything you think could be either like a preempt or something that you just think Konami would do? Like given the trends, like do you think you'll see a hit to like Runic or Tenpai or Yubel, like something to that extent?
Well, I don't think if you look at all the cards in Yubel, they're all too new except for the like opening the spirit gates and whatever that other guy's name is.
Dark Beckoning Beast. Yeah.
So I think that we could see a opening the spirit gates limited to 1, which in the grand scheme of things does not matter.
Yeah,
like Yubel would still be the best deck, I think.
Them both to 1, right? Like that's the only way, because otherwise you just alternate the numbers. Like obviously there's consistency issues, but like we've seen 3 Beckoning Beasts, 1 Gates turn into 3 Gates, 1 Beast, right? And that's just it's interchangeable, but one is obviously better than the other. So
yeah, so that's all I can really think of for Yubel. Euros was fucking destroyed by Dimensional Shifter. Please, God, do anything to that card.
Euros was also won by Tenpai, by the way.
Yeah.
No.
I think you could see hit to the 10-pie field spell, and even in OCG right now, we see a huge
It's at
upswing
1,
in
yeah.
10-pie, and it's at 1, but
Yeah.
and they also have the new Max C cards. Their deck is literally just like new Max C, actual Max C, and then every other hand trap in existence, plus Dimensional Shifter. And
It's
it
crazy
just,
you bring this up. I'm literally on that page right now. And the one thing I wanted to look at was Yubel in Japan, just real quick. Holy shit. It's just like fallen off completely.
which is super weird because I don't think any of the cards are limited.
Well, no, I guess it's just the additional Max Cs, right? Like that's the whole
I mean,
premise.
yeah, you can't spam multiple Phantom of Yubels in a turn under the new Maxi plus Maxi. So I
Yeah.
imagine that probably contributes. But our tournament, our if our format ends up being seeing the 10-5 field spell limited to 1, I imagine you would just see still the deck would be Mulchummy, both Mulchummies instead of like Maxi and
Oh yeah.
it
There's no
would.
reason for you to not play both, I think, when we get to Rage of the Abyss.
What? Yeah. So like the OCG
Senpai.
has Maxi and the new Charmy, and then our format would just be both Charmies and the 10-pie deck. So I think you might just see.
Crazy how like people have been talking about the Molcharmy from Infinite Forbidden, and like people were like, oh my god, it's so broken, whatever, and then it became I'll admit like a side deck staple ish thing, and people were like, oh well, we don't have Maxi, so it's gonna be mained in every deck, and that's just not what happened. In Japan, like the new Molcharmy is so good. Japan is maining it with Maxi. Like
Yeah.
that's crazy how much better that card is.
Yeah, infinitely.
Like and that is wild to me. Yeah. It is just wild, I think, how good that card is. And like maybe the thought process behind these cards existing is like opposite direction. Is like we banned Maxi because it something didn't do enough, something like decks were looking very similar. And I will say, like, Japan's metagame and our metagame looked almost identical most of the time, except even with Maxi being legal or not. Like, Maxi being legal didn't make them play worse decks to play around Maxi. It just made them put a billion cards in their deck to negate Maxi. And then here we are. So now the opposite thinking of, okay, well, how about we give you 6 Maxi? Now try to play your decks. And then we see everybody is still, the metagame in Japan is just still the same decks. And I don't know what to do. I don't know where we go from here. Like,
yeah, I mean, outside of like those kind of hits, I think hopefully we see hits to like skill drain and like other floodgates, which
that was the other one I was going to bring up, like Runic, right? Like that's
yeah. I don't really have a problem
with
with the runic cards in general. What I do have a problem with are the floodgates that inherently make the runic deck like non-interactive.
My biggest issue is when the power, like aggregate power level of all of the decks is so high, and you have to build to compensate for that. You do have to neglect some decks, right? And Runic definitely fits that sort of role of like, this is a deck that I can't, like, I have to compensate for, but sometimes it's just never enough. So I think consistency hits are always good for decks like that, just to sort of keep it in check. Like Flunderies was a deck like that. Obviously, it didn't get hit at all, but in OCG, that was sort of a trend that they had where they just a lot of consistency hits to a deck like Flunderies Master Duel. You see the same thing. But...
I'm trying to think about what else, because it just seemed like even though people want a big list, but it's kind of weird. Like, what do you actually hit after like the Snake Eye cards? They're not gonna hit Fiendsmith cards. They're not gonna hit like Bell cards. Like,
I think
going back to Ryan's point of them printing,
they could do that. Honestly,
yeah, they could
ban the Unchained.
But like going back to Ryan's point real quick though, like you talking about them printing Molchummy, maybe it's just like this is their concession to them realizing they've gone too, like, it's too far gone, right? Like these cards just have to exist. These blanket effects that do things to stop your opponent just have to exist, and it's just gonna turn into like a Pokemon not Pokemon itself. Like obviously Pokemon has a little bit more balancing, but just like your decks will end up being 10 cards that are just the standard level staples that have a specific requirement in any given opportunity, right? It's like going second, this card is broken. Going first, this card is not that good, but you have the benefit of going first, right? It's like it's your Iono equivalent of like, do I play 1 or 4 copies?
I think if TCG turns back into how old Yu-Gi-Oh was your deck was 20 of the same cards in every deck. I think actually Yu-Gi-Oh would fall.
I agree. That's why it's interesting to see them print more cards like this, though. Because why are you doing it, right? Like,
I didn't realize the new Molcharmy was a wind monster. Does that mean we're gonna get 6?
There's gonna be one for every attribute.
There'll
probably be like 4 of them, and not one for Later Dark. There'll probably be one that like does
each
one
time
for summoning for Graveyard or Banish.
Each everyone sets a back row. Let's do it.
Yeah, everyone sets a back row. Yeah, you draw a card. I don't know, but I really don't like the way I don't want to have 20 hand traps in my deck and play the same.
It is. I wish the
things over and over again.
The Rage of the Abyss one, I wish they didn't make, but here we are. It is unfortunate.
Yep.
Are there any other deck have we gotten past the point of wanting them to ban calamities? Like, or does it just not matter? That card isn't.
No, I mean I hope they do. There's just more stuff. Like there's a new in the next set. There's a new what a Centurion card.
Oh yeah,
it's like very very good.
9th wave of support. Can I get Can I get a slice of Vanquish Soul, please? A crumb, a morsel of Vanquish Soul. Come on now.
The amount of people that are just pointing at the question mark on that playmat, and it's coming.
I know.
And I just think, even Jeff, bro. It was Ryan, who said it, and I said, "Have you not played a video game before?" He's 12 years old. Of course he hasn't. And then when Jeff said it, I'm like, "There's no way. You've definitely sat down at like one of those Marvel versus Capcom things at an arcade and seen the random fight. You've played Smash Bros before. If they bring out a card, good. But oh my god, there's no indication."
Yeah. So also, what threw me when I first looked at it is I didn't think of a fighting game thing, because when you play fighting games are not all the characters in a straight line like that. They're like in a grid almost. The
character select also has them like grayed out. So
I'm colorblind. I didn't notice anything about it being grayed out.
It's okay. You know what? You're fine.
I'm telling you.
However,
Vanquish Soul character select. That's what we need.
Ryan Kirk.
Vanquish Soul stage select. That would be cool.
Anyway, I still think that
anything, please.
Is also a hint that there's going to be another one eventually, simply because.
Oh, I heard so. That would be a cool Easter egg.
Yes. Because in the art lore guide or whatever, there was lore about the Vanquish Souls and how the Rock of the Vanquisher was once a sort of like god of the world, and eventually the Vanquish Soul Kaiser came and like defeated him, and once he defeated him, his energy dispersed amongst all the other like fighters in the world or whatnot. So I think that eventually they'll make a Rock of the Vanquisher, who is the actual card that Vanquish Soul Kaiser defeated.
I just want another Vanquish Soul monster. I don't care about the lore. I don't care about. I just want another card. Please, a spell. I don't want another monster. We have enough monsters. Please.
Come down.
Please give me a new Vanquish Soul spell. Let Mad Love be good.
I want another monster.
I need this. Okay. Anyways, so Bohdan, I do agree with you that it is the random. I do believe it is the random character. But if they make a new Vanquish Soul monster in like 2027, they're gonna be like, "See, look, it was a locked character, you dummy."
In 2030 when it happens. In quarter century banana. In what? I don't even know.
In bicentennial bonanza.
Bicentennial bonanza. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, anyway.
In the TV show Bonanza, when they reprint the Vanquish Soul cards. Oh my god.
Okay, so the tins, something kind of cool. So there are two kind of unique things with the tins this year that I think I want to bring up. One, they're doing QCRs like they did last year as like the tin like promo. Well, I don't think they are promos. I think they might be in the packs, but they're all like reprints of like older cards. And they've been doing this thing where they've been like slowly drip feeding us information about it on the monsters on the sides of the tins. Which last year they were very much relegated to main character cards to the point we got some real weird ones like Salamangreat Blaze Dragon or whatever that guy is. And
Yes.
nobody
Poop
wanted that.
dragon.
Yeah, like nobody wants Salamangreat Blaze Dragon. So this year they are branching out a bit and they've announced a couple of them. And they started with like Blue Eyes White Dragon. Like, yes, obviously, like that makes sense. There should be a QCR Blue Eyes. The fact that there should be a QCR Blue Eyes, presumably of the structured at Kaiba art or LOB art, either one. The fact that we've only had Tablet and the other one is baffling to me. But if they did not eventually make a QCR Blue Eyes with anime art, I don't know what they were doing. So, good. Like, let's do that. And then also they had the winking alt art Wing Kribo. Like, sure, like that's an anime thing, and like technically that is like the first card shown in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. So like that's kind of fun. Like I think it's the first card shown. Maybe when Jaden falls over and drops his deck or something, they show a card, but Yugi gives Jaden Wing Karibo and it's the whole thing. So sure. Then they're like, okay, how about this? Speedroid Terratop. Interesting choice. I don't really see how that relates to the other one. So I do think that kind of shows us that we're just getting literally whatever in these. What are the other ones? The Stardust Dragon XL?
Stardust XL,
and Utopia
Utopia.
Double. I like that one. I think that's a good choice. So I'm more optimistic for the QCRs in these tins than last year's. I think there's going to be more like playable cards in them. And then also, they are bringing us some of the alternate arts that we are still missing from various products. The ones they just showed last week were from the really weird OCG set Selection 5. Yes, that is the name of the pack. It is called Selection 5. And it came out in November of 2022. And we just haven't gotten them yet. And the alternate art cards it contained were for the Train deck, for Invoked, which they just showed us we are getting alternate art Mechaba and alternate art Invocation in the tins. And then the alternate art Engage came from that set, which we've already gotten in Battles of Legend, which does lead me to believe we are likely going to get the alternate art Shizuku, which I do think looks pretty good. I imagine that will be in the tins. And then we are probably going to get the Dragon Maid alternate arts, which is House Dragon Maid and the Fusion Spell. No, the Reborn. Dragon Maid Hospitality. And then last but not least, the Evil Twin alt arts that everybody.
I totally forgot about those.
I know it's been a while since but when those came out, people were really it was the whole thing. But yes, those are probably going to be in the tins, I would imagine. Like I would be kind of surprised if they just went, all right, Invocation, done. Like let's not do anything else. Especially because they have also already said we are getting like the Regeki alternate art and the Feather Duster alternate art that came out in
as well as like the Dark Magician Girl and stuff, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yes, they've announced a couple. The Dark Magician Girl and the Red Eyes, which came out in I believe it was the Quarter Century Chronicle set. Yeah, there's the Unity and Pride Quarter Century Chronicle.
Yeah, Unity and Pride, yeah.
Which there are a couple alternate arts that are pretty cool. There was the Dark Magician Girl, the Regeki, where it's like Slifer. I think there was a limit removal one. I like that one a lot, where it's just, although it is kind of like, when you really look at it, it is just Cyber End Dragon standing in front of limit removal. But you know what? That's pretty good. Like, canonically, like, that's probably who, he got limit removal a couple times. Cyberstein Summon Cyber End activated limit removal. That won a jump.
That's happened.
It did, right? That
It definitely happened.
Yeah.
I'm the only one old enough to remember that. But
Yeah.
What? I was there for that as well. I don't know what to tell you. What?
yeah, Bohdan went to all the YCSs back then.
Well, they were shown in jumps, so that shows what you know. But anyway,
Yes. And then there's the
Buddy.
tuning alternate art, which is I think looks worse than regular tuning, but it is what it is. They
Is
set
there also like a 1-for-1 alternate also?
Really?
I'm pretty sure there's a 1-for-1 alternate art.
I think the one you're thinking of is tuning.
Oh, is it?
I think so. I don't think there's a 1-for-1 alternate art. I guess
No, there is. There 100% is.
What did that come out of?
Quarter century legendary selection alternate art 1-for-1.
What the heck? Quarter century legendary selection. I've never heard of. What?
VP 24003.
Oh, there's also a quarter century anniversary selection. Although that didn't have.
And there's an alt art polymerization. Did we get this one already?
Alt art polymerization.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I would have known.
We did not. This looks sick. I forgot. I remember seeing this. Yeah, this is with Percentrix and Avion. That looks super cool. That is awesome. 1-for-1. What does alt art 1-for-1 look like?
I hate the 1-for-1 though. It has Sonic Chick on it, right? That's what that card is?
Yes. It is Sonic Chick and Quillbolt Hedgehog.
Oh, I didn't even see that in the back.
Neither of which. Oh no, Sonic Chick is level 1, but it's not a tuner. So why would you summon this off 1-for-1 and discarding Quillbolt Hedgehog? Surely, if you discarded Quillbolt Hedgehog for 1-for-1, you would summon a tuner monster. But why? Is that really what you say summoned off 1-for-1 in the anime? There's no way. Sorry.
Oh, maybe he did.
I have to check now because it's making me upset. Oh my god. In episode 28, Yusei Fudo uses this card during his duel against Grady, while the latter was a shadow drone. That means he uses this card to send Quillbolt Hedgehog from his hand to the graveyard and summon Sonic Chick from his hand. Oh my god, this card was awful. Damn. I didn't even know 1-for-1 could summon from your hand. That's crazy.
I definitely did, but
I don't think I've ever done that before.
Because original Simple Spoils can also summon from your hand.
I think I knew that. I like to believe I knew that. Wow, you say washed? Overrated duelist? Okay, then later he summons Level Leader. From 1-for-1 only summons monsters from Yusei's hand. Very unlucky, always drawing his bricks. And he discards Quillbolt Hedgehog twice. It's a little suspect, but anyways. Okay. Now I hate this artwork a little bit less, but I also don't like it. I would have preferred if it was Tuningware than Sonic Chick. I don't know.
That would have been cooler.
Maybe this is just so different from the old 1-for-1 art that I like. It's so jarring. Like I can't even.
I would not be able to tell anyone that was 1-for-1 without being told it was 1-for-1.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I do think it is very, very. I do think it is very different. And. You know, the card that is on the artwork of it now. Wait, why did I think? Did they unban Samsara Lotus? I didn't know that. I thought the card was still banned. Yes, it was unbanned in 2023. I'm shook. I thought this card was still banned. I almost said I think the original 1-for-1 is cooler because there's a ban card on it, but that's just not true anymore.
Not true.
That card is unbanned. That's insane. I didn't know that. Anyways,
what are the chances? Regarding the alternate arts,
yeah,
I don't know if it showed what they were on like the like invocation. But what are the chances they were secret rare? I was like, what are the chances that they just make them QCR again?
That would be cool. What do you mean again? Like no. So I don't know how the QCRs work in this set, but I was saying like with the alternate art like Sky Striker cards and stuff like that, how you can only get them QCR. Oh, if they just put like the regular arts as secret rares, then the QCRs as the alternate arts, that would have been cool. But it looks like they're not doing that because I do believe the images of Mechabun Invocation were secret rare. But
yeah. Gotcha.
But they did say there are like 50 QCRs in this set, so And they did say the monsters on the tins, and I do not believe there will be 50 monsters on the side of the tin. That sounds crazy, but maybe there will be.
Yeah, I would like. I mean, out of the alternate arts, just to be. I wish they would just kind of stick to that, where like alternate art cards are really high rarity and hard to get, and.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll see. I just don't know how Yu-Gi-Oh is going to go for anymore.
Yes. When the quarter century celebration is over, literally what do we do? Like you know.
I hope that they. I mean the obvious answer would be they just go back to the Starlight rares, but I hope they just do something better than that.
I also hope they do something different. I hope they don't just go back to Starlight rares, because then it would be kind of weird. This whole thing would seem kind of pointless.
Yeah, and then look, every rarity comes Starlight rare now.
And then I think it would also make Starlight rares, like the old ones, like be a little bit more special, maybe, if they like made something other than Starlight rare when the QCRs leave. You know, it would be like, okay, that was a cool part of Yu-Gi-Oh history. Like that was a cool experiment. Like they're done. Maybe they can be worth something now. Finally.
Yeah, just start making alternate art cards.
Yes.
In every set.
Yes. If instead of if they replaced the whatever, like the 101st card, which was a reprint as Starlight, or the Magician of Unity, or the Dragon guy, if they replaced that with like one alternate art card, that would be really cool. Of whatever rarity, of who cares what rare, like whatever. Even if it's just like Ultra, just like the Dark Magician from Battles of Chaos, like just an alternate art card.
On that kind of topic, one thing I did notice was that the next set, the Rage of the Abyss, the 25th QCR is not a different colored dragon. Like, so we had the, is it Dragon of Pride and Soul or something?
Pride,
is that his name?
I do believe it is Pride and Soul, but it could be Pride and something else.
It is Pride and Soul, and then the other one's Magician of Pride and Soul. So the Magician of Pride and Soul.
Oh, there's a new one called Magician of Pride and Soul. Okay.
Oh, is there? Whatever the other QCR.
Yeah.
Magician of Bond and Unity, whatever the QCR was. So with that one, we got it in 4 sets, and each one was a different color, right?
Yes. Hated that.
We hated that. Yes, we thought it was stupid. And then we saw we were getting this Dragon of Pride and Soul, which looks cool. And I was like, oh, great, we're going to get a new one of these.
I also thought we were going to get a new one 4 times. I thought they said that, but I guess they must not have, because obviously it's not happening.
Yeah, because in the next set is another card, which is, I'm gonna make sure I get the name right. Rage of the Abyss. It is Ultimate Dragon of Pride and Soul, which is a fusion monster. So I think that they're going to do a different one in each set, and so this one was fusion, and then the next one is going to be a synchro, and the last one will be like an Xyz monster, and then they will have one for each extra deck mechanic.
That would be really fun. I would enjoy that. So there's no way they'll do it. That's too fun.
What do you think? So if they did a different one, this one, what do you think they're going to do instead?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
If they made a fusion monster that the materials were Dragon of Pride and Soul and Magician of Bonds and Unity and 10,000 Dragon.
Oh boy, that would just be like the another verse Latonia and
that would be like if Magic Magician was only a QCR. Oh god. Oh, okay. So I think we're kind of running dry on these things that we want to talk about. So let me introduce one more topic of just blind guessing. Just blind guessing. Do you think Sacramento will be a new prize card? Or do you think it will be... Well, it's in a week, and we don't know anything about it yet. So you think there'll be a new prize card, and they're just going to announce it next Tuesday?
I am pretty sure they didn't announce the prior ones, and the first YCSs that they held with the new prize card were in South America or Central America. And the first time we got to see them was when they were given out.
No, the first time we got to see them was the week of. It was literally the week of.
Okay, so maybe next Tuesday, literally, we'll get shown the.
Yeah, I mean,
the only reason I ask is because this is a unique situation in that yes, it is a YCS after the WCQs, but it's also a YCS before Worlds, which to the best of my knowledge has not happened before. It is at least for sure not happened in the last 10 years. But
I don't remember a time.
I
Yeah.
don't remember it ever happening.
Well, I mean, like, it, yeah, not for like Gen Con. Yeah, I don't know. Probably
Maybe.
not for 20,
Yeah.
15 years.
Maybe.
I don't fucking know, dude.
That sounds
But I
accurate.
feel like obviously this is like a unique thing, right? Like,
yeah.
but really, who cares?
But but maybe it
I
doesn't
know.
matter. Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
just business as usual,
yeah.
and they go, okay, here's your prize card. I think the only crazy thing about this season has been the fact that there were regionals fucking 1 week after the WCQ.
Yeah.
They literally it is not
Crazy.
stopped.
There
Yeah.
was not a single week. It was just the next week. That was so crazy. That's also to the best of my knowledge never happened before.
I am
that is
hopeful.
crazy.
I am hopeful that something will change for the YCS prizing in some capacity, whether that be, you know, the winner's card or otherwise. And I'm ready to be let down. But yeah, you know, we can only go up from here, right? That's all right. We can definitely get worse. But
I feel like they will look at this
Yeah.
and be like, "Wow, people actually really hated this," and are too far gone. And we're like, "Well, we committed to this," and so instead of like switching it up, at least right now, maybe they'll switch it up next year, or we'll just make like another verse magician girl card, and then at least it's a girl card
Yeah.
that people will probably
Another verse
want.
eyes dragon.
Another verse
Another verse eyes dragon.
Another
Magician
eyes verse
girl.
dragon.
Another verse eyes dragon magician girl of Timaeus and Pride and Soul
So,
and Bonds and Unity and 10,000.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would just like to see it more
Elemental
for the
Hero.
players, man. That's
Yeah,
all I'm
that's it.
saying is make everything more for the players. Like, I feel like everything is just not a pleasant experience for the players. We just need to focus on that. People still have fun, but that happens for most things where it's like on the surface, yes, like it is a fun event, it is a hobby. You should be having fun. However, for the people dedicated to the hobby, the people that are there week in, week out, like the warriors, right? These people just constantly go to events. Bring the fun back, bring the magic back. Because really, like if my friends weren't going to these events and you're not using this as
I don't
like
think
a
they're
means
allowed
to
to say magic.
have-
I'm pretty sure you have to say bring the spell back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
so
yeah,
on
like
this
if,
note,
again,
I
if your
have
friends weren't there, like would you be there? Probably
No.
not. Like would you take
No.
a solo trip to a
Definitely
YCS
not.
without your friends being there? No, of
I
course
considered
not.
it for Sacramento because like not a
Oh,
lot of people are going,
yeah.
and then I was like, why would I do this? Like, I was just like, no, like I'll stay. But on this topic of like bringing the fun back, or whatever, I do want to. I guess this can be our real last topic, I guess, because it is like I've recently started engaging in other card games. I thought it would never happen, but here I am. I've been playing Universes for a while, and I've enjoyed it. The first Pokemon regional of this season is just 50 minutes from my house. So I decided I would just go. And I had begun learning the game a couple days before that announcement. So that just kind of cemented like, okay, I'll take this pretty seriously for literally a month because it's next month. And you know, like I'll give it a go and we'll see. At Gen Con, I brought my Pokemon deck that I just got. And I was like, maybe I'll do some side events or whatever. And something that they had that Yu-Gi-Oh does not is they had a cooperative side event. And I don't know, I don't have an idea, like I have not thought about it. I don't know how you would implement something like this in Yu-Gi-Oh. The only thing I could think of would be something akin to like the Pegasus Challenge or something like that, where it was called a max raid battle, which for those of you that have played the Pokemon games, Pokemon Go or Scarlet and Violet or Sword and Shield, the raid battles are when you have a group of people and you fight either a Terra Pokemon or a big Gigantamax Pokemon, or in Pokemon Go, just a Pokemon, right? But like a legendary. And what it was is one of the judges got one of the oversized novelty cards from the pin collections, you know, the ones that are like the size of, do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So
They know
one
what
of
they
the
know. Everyone
yeah,
knows what it
yeah,
is.
not like a giant card, but just like an oversized card. And then
Mhm.
they had a deck, and I think they even like encouraged the judges to like make their own custom decks. And this is a format published on the Play Pokemon website, like the Max Raid Battle format. So you can make it and play with your friends at home if you want to. And it was fun. I might do it. Like it was very enjoyable.
Ryan has truly just experienced like two-headed giant or the
Yes.
Lorcana,
Yes.
like
So
Ursula Trove
yes.
challenge.
So
This is
literally,
your first. Is this genuinely your first time experiencing like the rebat? Like
no.
Magic's been doing it for
Universes
ages.
has one too. They
Oh,
also
sure,
have
sure,
one.
sure. I did. To be fair, I didn't know Pokemon did that. That does sound very cool.
Yeah,
That
and
sounds
that's
very
what
cool
got me
from like a
thinking.
Pokemon
Is
perspective.
I did
Yeah.
it in universes, and
Hmm.
it was an event that like when a set got released, they sent out like the boss card to all of the locals, and then instead of the locals that week, we did a couple runs of the boss, and like it was fun. I was like, oh, that was fun. Like maybe they'll do it again. Like maybe when like My Hero ends, they'll do like a My Hero one, and everybody fights against the boss or whatever, and that
Or
would
it
be
could
kind of
be
cool.
like Attack on Titan's coming out.
Oh,
For
Attack on
Universe,
Titan.
right? Could do that.
We thought for sure they would make one for Attack on Titan, but they haven't said
Mm.
anything about it. But
Okay.
but the Pokemon one, basically, the the judges could make their own decks. They were encouraged to use old cards. So like, there's a really old like Neo Genesis card that says pick an opponent's prize card and guess the card type. So essentially, you're more or less in Yu-Gi-Oh terms, guess the top card of your opponent's deck, monster, spell, or trap, and then if you guess right, you draw two cards. Well, since it is a 6v1, he got to guess for all six people. And then, he could draw 12 cards technically. He didn't, but he drew like 4 or something, right? And like stuff like that where they're encouraged to play like really wacky cards that like might not be viable in the context of 1v1, but because you're doing it like this, they're just very cool and they'll resolve differently and whatever. And like, it's balanced for constructed decks, it's balanced for just giving out, like starter decks or whatever, but it was a lot of fun. I did 2 of them with some of my friends who were trying to get into Pokemon. So I had a great time doing it, and I was like, man, I just don't know how Yu-Gi-Oh could do something like this. Like, I feel like just so many of the side events in Yu-Gi-Oh are still just like not like fun, if that makes sense. It's just playing constructed Yu-Gi-Oh slightly differently. The exceptions are like the sealed events, but even Rivalry of the Warlords, which in my opinion is like the most, in air quotes, fun Yu-Gi-Oh side event I've had bad experiences with in the past, just because like people don't know how cards work, and it's like, it can be frustrating when you're given a deck and you like it baffles me, the people that enter those side. So Rival of the Warlords is essentially you're playing a rental deck. Like they will give you a deck, and then you play against each other. And it does baffle me that people willingly enter a Rivalry of Warlords side event and then refuse to read their own cards. That is crazy to me that happens. But I've experienced that many times where they enter the side event and are given a deck they've never played, and they just go, I don't know how these work, and then just don't read them, and then I don't know why you would. I just enter a different side event, I guess, if that's how you're gonna engage with it. But I don't know what other types like did other than Time Wizard, did any of the alternate formats that they announced ever actually like happen? Like we did Heart of the
Mm.
Underdog, like that happened.
Well,
Is
they
like the
did announce
Deckmaster
them,
one
and
real?
it was just like throwing stuff at a wall to see if like it stuck.
Yeah,
Right?
but
That
I
was the
didn't make
whole.
that
Yeah.
up, right? Like there's a Deckmaster one. Like I
There
didn't
was,
make that up.
Yeah.
it was, and then they said they were going to like ban certain things from being deckmasters, and then it just never happened because
Okay.
I don't remember them saying they would ban stuff,
Vanity's
but I remember
Fiend
Deckmasters did.
Deckmaster. No
Right,
That
monster
was the whole joke,
effects.
right? Yeah, like it was people just saying we'll play the broken deck master. It's like, okay, well, no one's gonna play deck master.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, then no one's gonna play with you.
Like, all right. Yeah, no. So
Yeah.
that whole little thing they sent to the stores, I'm pretty sure was just like, hey, like no one wants to play current, right? Haha. Well, like now you can officially run Time Wizard and all these other shitty formats that we won't ever support. Time Wizard worked, I guess. That was
It-
good. We're happy with that, I guess. Oh. Yeah, no, nothing else. I don't like Heart of the Underdog, I guess is the extent of it, but like I don't know. Heart of the Underdog has its own sort of demons associated with it, where no one can really run it consistently unless you're like some psycho cult locals, where like the only events you run are Heart of the Underdog, right? And it's like the same 12 people every week. Like, we hate modern Yu-Gi-Oh, and they make adjustments as they go. It's like, yep, you know what? We're fixing the game one step at a time. They're probably like 3 years ahead of us in terms of forbidden limited technology.
Yeah.
They've been doing more testing than Jerome, Billy, and Kevin on the kitchen table. I'll tell you that.
All right. Okay. Shockingly, I think a shorter episode than usual, despite it being so long since we've recorded one. But I'm kind of out of things that I want to talk about.
Yeah, until there's like a forbidden list and some changes, there's not really
Yeah.
like much to talk about regarding Yu-Gi-Oh. So
let's fingers crossed there'll be a forbidden list, as
I
they said
hope so.
in late August.
Honestly, they might just do what they did at the one YCS and at Sacramento, just release it in the middle of the tournament.
Oh, that would be really cool. They should do that, probably. That would be cool. Yeah. Or like at World or something. Oh, that would be kind of weird, but that would be fine too if they did that.
There's no way Japan would let them do it at World.
That's true. I didn't think about that. You're right. Also, isn't World in September? Also, or is it the week after Sacramento
or something? Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I don't know.
Something to that extent.
Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
I'm not gonna check.
I was reading one of the chats, and obviously there's people going to Worlds in the chat, haha, and someone brought it up. So I 7th and 8th was written, so I assume it's that, but it could be anything. It could be 2 weeks from now, because I'm pretty sure Pokemon Worlds is soon.
Pokemon World is next week.
Yeah, Pokemon. Yeah, it is.
Because I think the issue was like there was actually a 1 week gap, but I could be wrong.
Let's double check. World is the same weekend as
I just want to get it out. Yeah, no, it is the 7th and 8th of September.
Very good. All right.
Sounds good.
Well, that about does it for us. I guess if we want to, we can do. In fact, I'm gonna say it so that because I want to. We can do like an episode 37.5 just about Gen Con, like later this week. I think that would be fun to not talk about Yu-Gi-Oh at all and just talk about Gen Con. That would.
You got to do some cool stuff. I got to do some cool stuff. Some stuff I can't even talk about. But one thing I got to do was talk with Player's Choice, and
yeah,
I think that would be pretty cool to talk about.
So perhaps because we have had a long time with no content, that maybe later, like tomorrow or something, we can just do like 37.5 Gen Con recap or whatever. Like no Yu-Gi-Oh at all. No Yu-Gi-Oh allowed.
Talk about Dragon Ball and
mini episode.
I can talk about all the Union Arena side events I played.
Yeah. Yes.
That sounds absolutely awful. But if they give out serial cards, I will also be playing that because that just sounds like free money.
All right. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you